My brain attaches to cartoon characters.
Ooh.
For people, like, whenever a dude is described as big in a book,
all the time.
I
every
picture Shan Yu from Mulan. Always.
Oh my god, let's get down to
Always.
business.
Yeah. Like, Hi everybody, welcome to BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. My name is Nikki.
I'm Kelly.
And this week, we have a very special guest that I'm going to tell you about before we even get into the book, because you know what book it is, because there's a title on the video podcast, the thing you're listening to. We're rolling with it. We have Tilly with us. I'm just so excited.
Yay! What a treat, what a dream to be back again. And we can just gush about books forever.
Yes.
Yeah, and we are talking about my favorite Emily Henry book of all time, because I haven't read Happy Place yet, so that could take over the spot for first. We're talking about Beach Read, which is the best, most beautiful romantic fiction thing ever. Enough said.
Agreed.
Oh
Agreed. I have read Happy Place, and it's still my favorite Emily Henry book. I'm just going to say.
Really? Oh!
Yeah.
That makes me excited. Like, not that I don't want anything to be as good as Beach Read, but maybe I would implode, because Beach Read was so good. Like,
Was
I don't
it your
know
first Emily Henry book?
Yeah,
Nikki?
it was. And the only other Emily Henry I've read the complete way through is Book Lovers. And I just read it earlier this month.
That
But
was my
I
first Emily Henry.
Yeah, I started People We Meet on Vacation, but I was like, it wasn't gripping me in the first 50 pages, which I heard from a lot of people it was like that, but I just wasn't in the mood to power through, so I put it down.
Sometimes it's like that.
Yeah.
See, my sister loves Emily Henry as well, and her favorite book is People We Meet on Vacation, which I'm like, what? Because that's like my least favorite.
Okay, I just bought a copy of that one, so let's not
No, I still
bring my
like
expectations down. Okay.
When I say least favorite, I'm like, it was a 4. You know? Like,
Oh, okay, great.
it's
Yeah.
still good.
Okay, to start us off, Kelly is going to read the synopsis for us.
With that eye roll. Yes, I will. And I'll do it gladly for you, listeners, because I already know what this book is about. Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens A Happily Ever After, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. Then one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of a backwoods death cult, obviously. Everyone will finish a book, and no one will fall in love. Really.
Oh.
I love it.
Same.
I was worried reading it the second time that the first time I read it, I didn't that my feelings weren't real. And that when I read it again, I'd be like, wow, this wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. But it wasn't like that.
Okay, good.
I'm so glad.
Me too, man. Me too. Tilly, since you're our guest, why don't you tell us what you thought about the book and your rating?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny that you talk about how you were worried when you reread it that you wouldn't like it as much as your first read, because I feel like I kind of had an opposite reaction to it. Like, I really enjoyed reading it. I absolutely cried my eyes out at the end. It was a complete disaster on my lunch break. My partner came out and was like, oh no. And I was like just looking at him with tears rolling down my face, trying to explain. And so that it really touched me, and like I got a lot out of it. But there's just something that like didn't work for me in it, and I think it's because I read Book Lovers first, and I think with Emily Henry it might be like the first one, like the first one is your love or something. I don't know if that's quite true, but I loved Book Lovers, and then when I read read Beach Read. Whoa. Okay, my brain just didn't know about tenses there for a second. When I read Beach Read, I was like, oh, they're actually really similar. Like, they're both about kind of enemies to lovers, like in kind of a remote small town location. And then I kind of had trouble like differentiating between the two stories. But I also think I was just in a weird hormonal space because I had reread The Love Hypothesis as a comfort read like the week before, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I usually do. So I don't know. I think I was just like a weird headspace. I do think if I reread this book, I'm going to like get so much more out of it. So I enjoyed reading it. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. But I just like, there was just something that wasn't working right for me. So I'm excited to talk about it because I have a feeling you're both going to like totally convince me to reread it. Maybe I'll do it like tonight. I don't know.
I think I'm going to read it again this summer when I'm at
Yay.
the actual beach.
Yeah, at the lake. Perfect.
Yeah. It will be so nice. Kelly, tell us your thoughts, your feelings.
Well, this was my second time reading it, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 both times. I believe I started my Emily Henry journey with People We Meet on Vacation, and then I read this one, and then I read Book Lovers, I think. My favorite is Beach Read, without a doubt. I remember crying the first time I read it. The second time around, I was like holding back tears several times because I was like, no, I know what happens. I don't need to do this. Like, I'm okay. I'm strong. And then I was talking to Scott about what I just read because I was like, oh, this book is so good. I just kept looking at him and going, oh, and hugging the book and going, it's so good. And he's like, okay, great. I'm glad you're having a good time. And I would just look at him and go, it's just so nice because this thing happened. Like, okay, you need to stop getting. But I love her writing. I love how, like, she's like one of us, you know? It just feels like I'm reading things my friends are going through, or, like, things that I've had to deal with, or maybe someone close to me's dealt with. Like, it just feels grounded in truth and reality of people our age. Like, this is millennial life, I feel like. We're not reading about billionaires. We're not reading about... I don't know, like other weird, over-the-top dramatic things I have to suspend my disbelief. Like, this stuff I can totally relate to in a way. And I just find the character so interesting. She's funny, Emily Henry. I love all the humor she puts in here. And then you've got her humor mixed in with some, like, really nice metaphors throughout the book. And I just, like, Gus is the guy. Gus is the guy. Okay, like... He is the ultimate. I want to read his book, but maybe not, because I feel like I'd be like, I think you need a hug, and I think you're like getting a little philosophy bro on me, and you just need to like relax. So I would want to meet him in a coffee shop, and then maybe see if I want to read his book. But 5 out of 5. Yes, 5 out of 5. Highly recommend. Love it so much. Don't go into it expecting a breezy summer beach tryst, even though it's called Beach Read, okay? Because it's so much more than that.
Yeah, it should like really be called like Small Town River Read or something. That's like really
doesn't
more
flow off the tongue as well, though.
No, but that's more of the vibe you get.
Like Lake House.
Dudes
Lake
who
House,
don't wear their toques over their ears.
Oh,
And wear
that is what it
collared
is.
long sleeve shirts over t-shirts. That's the vibe I get.
Yeah.
I don't hate it,
Interesting.
but
No,
it's
me neither.
definitely not sunny.
No, and I remember, I think it was both of you had told me that to like not expect a beach read. And so I went in being like, okay, I know it's not going to be like light and fluffy, but goddamn it still got me.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh. I was so excited for you to read this, Tilly. I was like, this is going to be for Tilly.
I feel like I got too in my head about it. I don't know. I got to reread it. 'cause
I know.
I think I was in a weird space.
When I saw in your Goodreads that you put a 4, I was shooketh. I was like, what happened? You know?
Yeah, she messaged me and
4 is good.
she goes, did you see what Kelly or what Tilly put as her rating on
my
Goodreads?
God.
And I was
was
like,
so confused.
no. And she goes, it was a 4. But this is the perfect Tilly book. I don't understand why it was a 4.
I was like, I don't know. But
I'm stingy with 5 stars. I typically don't give them out to romance books, and I don't know why. There's just like something like a book. If a book is 5 stars for me, it like has changed my life in a very deep way.
Yeah.
And while Beach Read was like great and I really enjoyed it, I wasn't obsessed with it in like maybe the way I was expecting to, or like I think about like The Goldfinch is like the ultimate 5-star read for me.
yeah.
For me, but it's like it's so personal, right?
Like emotional. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, and everyone has different ways of like what they consider to be rating. So I'm sorry if I offended you by rating it 4 stars.
No, I was just like, I'm
You
so
were shocked,
confused. This is the Nora Ephron of today.
It is.
Like,
It
but
is.
I didn't realize that you read Book Lovers first, and I love Book Lovers. I know a
I
lot of
did
people
too.
didn't, but I loved it. So.
I really liked
loved
Book
it.
Lovers too, but kind of the reverse of you, Tilly. I did have that thought, having read Beach Read first and then reading Book Lovers. I was like, there's a lot of parallels here, and I found myself in the beginning really like pushing everything that I remembered about Beach Read, like trying to push that out of my head so I could enjoy this as its own story, this being Book Lovers, because I was feeling like that. I was like, I feel like this has been done.
Yeah, and not
But-
that there's anything wrong with like being good at something and sticking with it, but it
Allie
did kind of make me
Hazelwood.
almost it kind of made me like lose a little bit of the love I had for Book Lovers even, which is like weird and wrong.
Yeah,
But
I
don't know.
was like
Let's go through
I was able to like push that out of my head, and I found enough differences in the books that I really liked. In terms of Beach Read, that when you're like a 5-star has to be really like life-changing. I feel like Beach Read was life-changing for me. I
love
was
that.
really recently separated from my husband, so I had a lot to relate to in the book in terms of like Gus's feelings towards his ex-wife, or like his recently like separated wife, and like all of that stuff. So, and I don't know what it is about Emily Henry's writing. She does such a good job with the plot that I don't ever think about her books necessarily as a romance book. I just think this is a really amazing book and storyline that just happens to have romance
Yeah.
in it. Like, I never go into it thinking like I'm reading a romance. I'm like, I'm reading a fiction book, but I know someone's gonna get together at the end.
Yeah.
in a spicy way.
Yes. I always have to tell customers, because they'll come up to me at work and be like, where's Emily Henry? I looked in the romance section. I'm like, she's not there. She's in fiction, because there's more than just that.
There is a lot more.
Yeah. And like, you don't necessarily know if they're going to get their happily ever after, you know? Like, I remember being a little worried when I first read this. I was like, are they going to be together? Because they really need to. Like, but it was so good, and I just loved going on the journey with the two of them in their like with their own personal issues they were struggling to deal with. It was so rewarding, and I just wanted to give Gus a hug, and I wanted to like rub soothing circles on January's back, like, it's okay, girl, we're gonna get through this. Like, oh yeah, I had such a good time.
So sad.
Yeah.
My God, nothing gets me like a sad dad.
Oh my
and like
God, I know.
that whole storyline was like the most compelling part to me, was like January and her dad, and after he passes, she like finds all this stuff out about him that she just didn't even know, and then was like, how do I reconcile the like father I thought I had to like the father that I had that I didn't know about? And it was like, oh my God, it was stressful. I was
Right?
describing it all to Aaron. I was like, he was like making dinner, and I was like, so that this happens, but then you think it's gonna be like this, but then you understand why it's like this. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, exactly. And so then at the end, when we get that like, is it okay that I'm talking about ending stuff? We're just kind of
yeah.
jumping all over the
Yeah,
place. Okay, cool. So at the end, when you get all the letters that he's written and like trying to like be like, I hope you understand, like, I don't think what I did was right, but I hope you can like find it in your heart to like love and forgive me. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
God.
oh my God.
I also
So
found
it-
it like really compelling, her relationship with her mom, from thinking, how can my dad have done this to her, obviously, to then knowing that her mother knew and just chose to kind of like live with that knowledge and not do anything very drastic with it. And then her kind of like reconciling who she thought her mother was, along with like who she became for her mother when she was sick.
Yeah.
And how her mother lived her life with her dad. I was like, that's a lot, because her mom's still alive. So they can still have this relationship that's forming, unlike her with her father. And I don't know, I just think about that a lot, and how I don't know, I just think, how would I react to that if someone
it's complicated.
Yeah, someone you think is so strong, who has lived through so much, does something that can be perceived as very weak, out of potentially fear or something like that, and then to look at them and have to be okay and understand that that wasn't your choice to make.
Yeah. And the fact that like everyone in the family, it feels like her mom, her dad, even her, they're all trying to do things to make each other feel better and like feel whole, and like, we're gonna get through this, because her mom has cancer twice in the, like, before the book's events happen, like she beats cancer twice. And January, she's like, I'm not gonna go to grad school, I'm not gonna do this. Like, she cancels all these plans. No one asks her to cancel these plans, but she does, because she's like, I need to be with my family, because what if I lose my mom, and I need to support my dad, and like all this stuff. So it's like, I feel like there's so much resentment on all three sides of like, maybe the dad wasn't happy with his relationship, so he goes with this other lady, but then he feels like he has to come back because she's sick, and then the daughter doesn't know this stuff, so she's like, oh my god, I gotta cancel all my plans and be with her, and like all this stuff. And so when he dies and all this comes to light, it's like, what was the purpose? Like, I love the very, very beginning of the book when she says to herself, I have a fatal flaw, and she goes on about like her relationship with romance and like trying to see the positive sides of things. I just loved that thread throughout the whole book. It was so good. Oh.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot deeper than I was expecting, and maybe that's what some of my like weird feelings about it are, was that I think I wanted it to be like more of a comforting read, right, but I didn't find it comforting. I found it challenging, and I think that's good, and I think it made it a stronger book, because she like has all these difficult issues that the characters are wrestling with. But I think I was just like having a really stressed out time, and I wasn't comforted by the book, and so it made me like, ooh, stressed out.
Right.
But now that we're talking about it more, I'm like, I really need to go back and reread it, because I do think it's so well handled, like all of these difficult topics, and they are really relatable. And you know, like, what would you do if you thought all your life that it was like gonna be your mom who was gonna pass first, and you were like prepared for that, and even though it was gonna be really awful and difficult, but then it's like it's your dad, and then there's this other complication too. It's just like, whoa, it's too much to deal with. I think I also have a lot of discomfort with like death, and like reading about death, and I haven't had a lot of death in my life, so it's hard for me personally to read about, and I think that's where I'm coming from with this. But I'm glad it was like really powerful for both of you. It was powerful for me too, but I'm glad it was like so meaningful for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I really like the relationship with January and Everett. But that really, like, talking about this stuff, the romance really takes a back seat to everything else in the book. I found, like, thinking through like everything, I believe it's like in his letters, and also Sonia, who is the dad's affair partner, they both kind of like explain through letters and through her that they reconnected at a time when obviously he was having a very hard time with his wife being sick. Things had changed, and then she got better, and he was basically like, well, I don't want Sonia, I want my wife, because things are the way that they're supposed to be now, and I'm happy with my family, and I don't need anything else. And like, not that I ever think that cheating is okay, But there is a part of me that empathizes with that feeling of the person that I am romantically attached to, I can have no romantic involvement with anymore because I'm a caretaker to them. And that's something that naturally happens in relationships where somebody is sick or has a disability. And it's very hard for that not to become the case, especially with things like cancer, where people are like physically like ill a lot from like chemo and radiation and everything. So like to see that and like her struggles with it, I could really empathize with her, thinking, obviously I'd be like, I hate my dad for what he did to my mom, but also the fact that her mom was able to reconcile that he was going through a really hard time too, and even though he chose not the best way to deal with it, he had to deal with it somehow to make it through. And maybe the fact that he did that in her mom's mind is the best thing he could have done for their family, because it allowed their family to continue after the cancer was gone. And I'm like, whoa.
That's a lot. I mean, I was thinking too while reading it that because Sonia and her dad were like high school sweethearts, right? They were like each other's first boyfriend. And in just a different reframe of that story, she isn't the villain. The mom is, because like they were dating first, and then he left his wife and then he came back into her life. Like it's such a well drawn out story. Like even though we don't get like every piece of it, it just kind of like revealed as the story goes on, because it all makes so much sense. You can totally see how these things happen and how in Sonia's mind she's like not really the other woman.
But
in January's mind, she is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of movies and books that are framed with Sonia being the main character.
Yeah.
Well, and like when Sonia says like we were our first love, whatever, to each other, she's kind of like, oh God, like I don't want to hear this, because she lives in romance. She knows all about that. And she's like, oh my God, like this is not just some woman that he found and was attracted to and wanted to get a fix or something. You know what I mean? Like this was someone he had a real relationship with before and then rekindled it and grew it, and
they had history.
And for all Sonia knew, he was going to leave his wife, right? It wasn't because that's what he had said to her, like we're separated. So it's just like I did not like Sonia because I was on January's side, but I did feel kind of like when I first read that. But I didn't like Sonia because of her boundary issues, like I would have been like, okay, I get it, you have a different relationship with my dad than I do, but like I don't need to have a relationship with you, and you need to respect my boundaries. Like get away from me, get off my porch, so
she was really all up in January's business.
I couldn't believe she went to the funeral.
I know.
Oh my God,
What the fuck?
I just had a big thought, all caps, which is that I was like, when you were saying you weren't a big fan of Sonia, and because you were on January's side, I was kind of thinking, I was like, well, I was reading it, I wasn't really a big fan of January, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, but that's strange, because I'm very similar to January. I also did a lot of creative writing in university. I also did this. I also love romance. And then I was kind of going down a thought spiral just now, and I realized I think I didn't like myself very much while I was reading this book. And then I think that like affected how I was feeling about the book and about the characters. So that's unfair of me for the book, and also unfair of me for me. So just putting that out there.
Well, I love January, and I love you. So
aw, thank you. I love myself today, but at that time I did not, and that's okay.
It is a journey, right?
It's always a journey. It's also like, why is it cyclical? Why is there always like a couple of days a month where I'm like, I am the worst human being in the world and nobody's told me? And then, you get your period and you're like, oh, everything's actually fine.
God, unlike me, you get your period, you try to go to Dairy Queen, they fuck it up twice, and then you're like, I just wanted ice cream. But that's another story for another day. But No,
Yeah.
I Nikki's like, uh-huh. Was this set in Maine? I'm trying to remember. Was this Maine?
No, like Michigan or something.
Oh,
I
dang
know
it.
they're
Maybe.
M state.
'Cause
I
I'm
don't
like-
know any of the states. I live
Right?
in Canada. They don't know my provinces. I don't know their states. That's
I
the
was
trade-off.
like, they're so close. It could be here. It could be here. They could do the movie here. And then we could be like, who's Gus? Or like, Emily
Wow.
Henry, do you need us to scout locations? Yes, I need to live in this world for another day or two. It was so much fun. Like,
I think I'm gonna have a really hard time watching that movie. I think all of her books have been picked up for movies.
they have.
And I'm going to have a very hard time watching it because
I have a specific idea.
yeah, they cannot fuck this up for me.
My sister.
It'll take me a very long time to forget.
And yeah, absolutely.
My sister
Enemies.
is
Sorry.
like freaking out about these movies because I don't know if you guys have seen on Instagram. I don't remember his name, but the guy who plays Matthias in Shadow and Bone, yeah, on Netflix, he has like tagged Emily Henry in several posts about the movie news or whatever, and so people think that he's trying to get a spot in one of these movies, and some people are like, yes, put him in, and other people like my sister are like, no, don't, because she has a certain image. But for me,
Right.
I did not picture anybody. I just pictured like a blank
Yeah, there's
face
not
with
a lot
hair.
of no, there's not a lot of description of the characters. I kind of found it hard to imagine them. I kind of have like shadowy blurbs in my mind.
Same. But I'm like, I don't mind that because I feel like I do that with most books anyway. I just kind of picture the shapes moving and whatever because
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's more the feeling.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
never see facial features. Sometimes I'll see kind of like a hair color, but it's almost like if I look at them from like a distance in my mind, I can see people, but if I try to focus on any features, it's just blurred.
Interesting. Sometimes my brain transposes somebody who I know, their face onto, or like their body onto a character that I'm reading about. And, you know, they say that your brain can't make up a face. Like, even when you're dreaming, every face that you see is a face you've seen in real life, which is like freaky. But also, it's weird how sometimes you latch on, or at least my brain does, latches on to like certain people or certain faces, and I'm like, I don't really know this person.
Henry Cavill.
But like in my head, they're attached to this character, and that's like who they are. I was having that. What was I reading? Leviathan Wakes, which is like a sci-fi book that I didn't super love, but that's besides the point. But while I was reading it, I had just started watching the newest season of Saturday Night Live with Michael Longfellow is one of the new like featured comedians. And I don't know, I don't really have an attachment to him as a person, but in my head, he was this character that I was reading about in this sci-fi novel. They're not attached in any way. But anyway, it's just weird. Brains are weird.
My brain attaches to cartoon characters. For people, like whenever a dude is described as big in a book,
all the time.
I
Yeah, every time.
picture Shan Yu from Mulan. Always.
Oh my god, let's get down to
Always.
business.
Like, I have no idea what it is, and like I can obviously like get past that initial thing because I can still like
But why
really
would you?
enjoy the book, but I'm just like, I think it's the balding for me with the long hair. I just don't really love that.
Does
But,
he
like,
have Donny Osmond's singing voice though, or is it just the face?
no, not the hot guy, Shan Yu, like the Hun.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, okay. no,
That's
never
what
mind.
I'm saying.
Well, in a certain, like, in the right circumstance, perhaps.
I just like, I don't know, they're like big, and I'm like big, and my brain's like, this guy's big.
Big plus scary plus Hun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in this Facebook group of it's like historical romance kind of thing, and people recommend or suggest books, and it's all based on Steam level, which I'm like, great. And because I need to know what I'm getting into. And someone was like, whenever I have to picture a big muscular man with dark hair, I always think of Henry Cavill. And so now I'm trying to like replace, because I love Henry Cavill and I would not mind imagining him like dressed up as a duke or a knight or whatever. Like, I've seen The Witcher, so it's just like a hop, skip, and a jump away. You know, like, so I'm just saying,
It's
but
like
not for
lucid
this
dreaming.
book.
Just try and like train your brain into latching on.
But with Emily Henry's words to guide us, because I can't do this myself.
I did really like Gus. I have like a weakness in my real life for like serious, intense men who are grumpy on the outside and like complete softies on the inside. So I really liked Gus, and I loved how like their perceptions of each other changed once, because they knew each other in university, right? They were both like in creative writing together, and she like had this idea of him as being like, he hates me because of this and this, and then as she gets to know him again now, she's like, oh, that was never true. It's like Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, because he was like, let me guess, it ends happily ever after. And so she takes that as a slight, and
Personally,
she's like, you always critique my work and no one else's. And he's like, yeah, because you were the only one who was good. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, and like sometimes, especially when you're in university and like you're a young new adult just like trying to figure things out, people like can say something to you that you're like, oh, they meant this, even though it's like not true, because you're doing so much to like read in between the lines to try and figure out your life. And so I really related to that, but I was also like, January, come on, he's in love with you.
I love how just like how stubborn she was though, and she would just like have all these witty remarks in her head about his books, or like, I bet you're coldly horny or whatever, like your books. And I just love that he had read her books and she had never read his, because I feel like I would be like that. I'd be like, I don't want to read your dribble, your drying paint, your whatever. Like, why was the wallpaper blue? I don't care. It was blue because they liked the color blue, So, but like, I just love that he's like, yeah, I read it, whatever. And she's like, like, I can't believe you actually read it. And then she tried. I want to know though, I wish she had read it in the book. So like read his book during this book, so that we could have gotten that side of it. Because I want to know what she learned about him, the person, through his writing, with what she was learning in real life, But I'm just saying, I would love that.
I could do with another like couple of books unpacking this story. I just found out just before this recording that there's like a bonus and like extra chapter about Beach Read. It's called
I didn't know
Layover.
that.
Oh, yes, I have read that. Yeah.
And I found a link, so I'll send it to you, Nikki.
Ooh,
Yes.
good.
It's just on Emily Henry's website. I don't think it's like a secret link.
Yeah,
Right.
no. Because, that's how I read it. I'm on her grocery list. It's her subscription. Same. Yeah, her newsletter. So, basically BFFs. Right next to the milk is me.
What are you doing next to the milk?
It's the grocery list. I don't know.
No, I know, but why the milk? Why
I don't
not the ice
know.
cream?
I don't know.
The mangoes.
The what?
I don't know, the mangoes. I'm just naming nice groceries. Ice cream, mangoes, peanuts.
Looks as though we're set for a fun Friday night. I don't know what we're doing, but...
We're making margaritas. I wish. I could really go for a margarita right now. I'm so sorry, Nikki. We're so off tangent.
No, that's okay. I'm just listening. It's nice.
I do. Okay, since we're talking about Gus and his book, so sorry. I do feel it's a bit of a cop-out that they made this bet, right? They're like, you write a romance novel, I'm gonna write a literary fiction novel, but then neither of them like really changed their genres that much. I know that they like pushed themselves into kind of a different box, but he didn't write a romance novel.
No,
he didn't
I
like
agree.
have a happy ending, and I was
Yeah.
like, come on, I wanted him to write smut.
Yes!
I wanted him to like figure himself out and then like have this kind of awakening.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted, and I didn't get that, and I was like, ugh, okay. I mean, I think it's more realistic, but I wasn't reading it for the realism. Okay.
Yeah, I was hoping that he would lean more into... I thought the first time I read it, I thought at the beginning he would obviously keep doing research for his cult book, but it would
Right.
be a different book that he wrote
Right.
for the romance one. I think she did a better job.
I'd be
terms of-
surprised.
Like there was like
different
real
direction. Yeah.
real plot, kind of
Yeah.
like, other things happening other than just like a romance. So I don't know. Yeah, I did feel kind of like
Come on, Gus.
About that.
Yeah. And like, even though I've already read this book both times when I was reading it and he was doing the research with the cult and the ex-cult members and all this stuff, I was like so concerned that he was going to drop the bomb that his mom was in the cult. And
Whoa.
I've already read the book. I was still like, his mom, she was a member. Like, I was convinced.
I love your conspiracy theories.
I've already read it, but I'm like I'm so.
Well, it's like, yeah, like why else would he be really into this cult?
Yes.
Why else would he really like want to go camp out at the site? Like,
Right? Which,
of course
can
his mom
I-
was in the cult.
Yeah. Can I just say, I would
Yes.
have never expected.
You can. I know. I think I know where you're going, but yes.
I would have never expected to be like, oh my god, how romantic when they were at that like cult graveyard thing.
Yeah.
I guess they weren't
I
right
don't
on it when
know.
they were in the tent. They were like a bit of ways, but I was like,
Even like tent sex, I'm like, come on. It's
couldn't be
awful.
me. Couldn't be
Yeah.
me. That's for sure.
Hard ground.
Oh my
rain
god, bugs? I'd be like,
leaking
there are
into the tent.
Bye.
Yeah. This is
Worst-
giving me like, you remember in Go Hex Yourself when they're like in the
gonna
well
say,
and we had like that whole conversation where I was like, they're literally talking about how it's like there's
Wet.
water in the well and they're still doing it. And in my mind, I'm just like, you're going to get some kind of infection.
Or
See,
a
the difference
bug.
here. Oh,
This
go
was
ahead,
your
Nikki.
nether regions. Sorry.
Yeah. This was giving me those kinds of thoughts where I'm like, would he even be able to get it up if they're so cold? Would it just be like inverted at this point? Who wants
Like a
to?
belly button.
It
I
would take
think-
forever to get your jeans off if they're wet. Like it's so hard to take wet pants off. Like I was just like,
God, yeah.
anyway.
It didn't bother me in Go Hex Yourself because I've never done it in a well. But I have, however, done it in a tent, and it's not like what you want it to be.
It's not
and
hot.
It's not like the wet jeans. Same. I was like, no, thank you. And also just the proximity to the graveyard, and they'd had like such a difficult like day. I wasn't like super put off by. I have a friend who read it and was like 2 stars for this book because that scene creeped me the fuck out. And I like can kind of understand her mindset on that. I didn't feel that way, but I was still kind of like, I don't know about like I know how I think trauma and like difficult things can bring people together, and like they unlocked some vulnerability and you know that all that great stuff. But I was like, could we have just been like back at the beach house doing
Well,
this, though?
that's the thing. Like if they had gone there for the day and then they went home,
Yeah,
I would have
why did
been
it to
like,
be in the tent.
sure, cool.
It's not like they needed to be in a different space. They both lived alone in these beach houses.
That's true.
Yeah.
I wasn't so upset by it because I bought the actual like reasoning or like I guess lead up to them having sex, but like I have definitely said on this podcast, I don't remember which books, but I know for a few books where I'm like, I don't buy it. Like, why are you having sex now? And then both of you will be like, well, trauma brings people together. So I'm like, this was the only one I feel like that I was like, yes. And
like,
that's
they were
because
right.
of Emily Henry.
And Tilly and I are like, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, eh?
I really like the like sexy parts, but I don't care about them like I do in other books.
I'm not obsessed with them.
And I don't know if it's because I don't think it's because I don't think that they're good. I think they're good, but I think that there's such a small part of what's actually going on in this book that I really wouldn't even need them. Like they're so like product placement-y for like we're putting this in for the genre and it doesn't need to be there. In my opinion. Like this book could have been completely fade to black and I would have been totally fine with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know what you mean.
I would
you
have
guys
been
seen
fine
the-
too, yeah.
I think I would have been too. Have you guys seen the movie About Time?
Yeah,
I feel like
I
it's a similar
love
thing.
that movie.
I loved it too, but you go in thinking that it's gonna be like a
Sad?
rom-com,
Oh.
and then it turns into like just a really like much deeper movie again, like about the main character's like relationship with his dad and like with time and death and like all this difficult stuff. And it kind of gave like, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, I think that's kind of the same vibe with this book where it's like it's not about really the romance. The romance is a part of it, but it's more than that. And I love romance, so I don't, I'm not saying like it needs to be more than that, but in this it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree that like, yeah, this book could have been Fade to Black and it still would have been great, because it's not like, I didn't pick this book up being like, yes, it's going to be steamy, but like, especially because this wasn't my first Emily Henry book, I knew how the characters would hopefully be written. And so whenever those moments happen, it just feels so earned to me, because they already have so much intimacy and vulnerability between the two of them, like of all their conversations. And with Gus, it's a little different because he doesn't open up a lot at first. It's usually just January and then she gets mad at him. But like, I looked at my husband and I was like, oh, this part was so nice. She was having an awful time and he just like hugged her and rubbed her back. And like, I know that that's nothing, but so many people don't do that. And, like, so many guys don't do that. My husband does, because otherwise we'd not be married. No. Scott's great. But it's just like, how many books have we read where that's not the case, where they don't actually have like an emotional connection before any hanky-panky, as my mom would say, happens.
Oh my God. I always used to think of handkerchiefs.
Right, hanky-panky. But they're just like so emotionally connected that you care so much about them. And so to me, those moments were just like a cherry on top, and the way they're written, the way the sex scenes are written, reminds me in a way of Lisa Kleypas, because she's very sensual and emotional while this physical act is happening. So like, I loved reading the stuff leading up to them having sex, of like they're kissing, or like he's like nuzzling her neck with his nose, or like just all those little details of them being connected. I'm like, oh, this is so nice, and they care about each other, and just so good. So yeah, but yeah. Those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you for sharing. I loved them.
I feel like I don't really like remember details about the spicy scenes. Like, I remember like intimate things with them, like her talking about them like watching movies every night and how their legs were like tangled up under the blanket when they'd fall asleep, but their heads were at different ends of the couch and stuff. Like, those moments I really remember. But I literally just reread this book and I'm like, yeah, the tent thing happens, and I'm like, when does it happen again? And I'm like, I don't know, I can't remember, because I didn't need it.
Yeah. They also
so my brain didn't even take it in.
That's fair. They do make out against a bookshelf. That really has stuck in my brain.
Yes, and she's like, it's against his book. She's like, do you do this to everyone?
Yeah, and it was one of those like, it just happened and they like couldn't help themselves, and they didn't know how to talk about it afterwards, which I'm like, whew.
But I loved that he was like, steamy. You're trying to drag my ego while I'm making out with you against the bookshelf. Like, I love it.
That's chemistry, baby.
Yes.
When I read things like that, I really have to like hold back my personal feelings, because I'm someone who really doesn't like to be uncomfortable. And so I'm like, oh, that'd be so hot. And then I think about it and I'd be like, oh, I'd hate that, because it'd be digging into my back, and I'd be like, could we move, please?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like trying to like push that out of my head, because the way that she like wrote that situation, you were like, oh, that's really hot, but you're laughing at the same time because of their banter back and forth.
Yeah.
It was very good.
She does do top-notch banter.
Yes.
In my little, I was just rereading my little like review of Book Lovers, and I was like, top-notch romantic banter. Romanter? I'm like, wow, I'm such a fucking dork. But I do feel like she's a queen of, like, because sometimes you read a book and people on Goodreads are like, the banter's so good, and then you read it and you're like, no one talks like this, and it's incredibly lame.
Yeah.
But Emily Henry, I do think genuinely is like really good at that witty kind of back and forth, and it feels relatable. It's like teasing, but it's not too much with the like baby cakes and sweet cheeks. Oh, that's the other thing. I just re-listened to our most popular episode of all time, The Love Hypothesis, today because I wanted to like get in the zone. By the way, it's amazing. If you haven't listened to that one yet, we're all just gushing about that book the whole time.
Shameless
It's
plug.
lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. And we talk about sugar cakes and like baby cheeks or whatever it is. And Emily Henry does not do that. She does realistic, like, you're a bit of an asshole and I still like you, and it's teasing and fun.
Yeah. And they have inside jokes that we're privy
Yes.
to, so we feel like we're in on the fun. Like, I
True.
tabbed, I mean, listeners can't see, but I
lot.
tabbed so many things, and most of these are things that I thought were funny. Like, I just laughed so much reading this. Like, the Labrador's farting during an uncomfortable moment at that red, white, and
Oh yeah.
red, what is it? Red, white, Russian, and blue. And it's like a spy
Yes.
book club.
It's so silly.
I loved it. And the Labradorite, like, that lady was just obsessed with rocks. And she's like, I'm going to put rocks in my next book just for you. Like,
I
Yeah.
loved those two. The like wacky ants who are just like, you know, in love and very silly about things.
yes.
Loved it. What's his aunt's name? His aunt's name?
Pete.
Yes.
Pete.
Because her real
Pete, and
name's
the-
Posey,
and her wife
I
is-
think. Maggie, I think?
Maggie,
Like Marsha.
I think.
Yeah. Something like
Maggie,
that.
yeah.
I loved them. I was like, I want to read their book. How did they end up together?
Right?
This lady who won't shut up about rocks, but is like very willowy and beautiful. And then Pete, who's just like stomping around in rubber boots. I want to read that story.
Yeah. I really like their scene after that when she's like really drunk from her purse wine.
Oh, yes.
She's like, I'm just going to walk. And she's like walking down the side of the road and he's like, get in the car. You have to get in the car. It's like
Purse
7
wine.
miles away. The house is like 7 miles away. You can't walk all the way to the house.
What's like 15 kilometers?
Something like that.
Yeah. Like
No,
maybe
thank
like
you.
12 kilometers.
It's like even 2 kilometers. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I take a car ride a kilometer over walking there, if I'm being honest. Especially if I've had stuff to drink and there's no like Jack's Pizza on the way. Like, why am I
Oh,
walking?
yeah. I just
No.
give up halfway through when I'm drinking. I'm like, no thanks.
In the middle of nowhere in a small, like, resort-esque town? No, thank you. Walking alone at night on, like, dirt roads, intoxicated? I've seen 60 Minutes, okay?
I was going to say, this
not
could have
doing
been a very different book.
Could have been research for his next book, which she brings up. She's like, are you going to murder me here? Like,
It really felt like no one else lived there, though. It was like Gus, January, Pete, Marsha or Maggie, and Sonia.
yeah.
Nobody else. Nobody else in the whole town.
It felt
I was
like
like,
it was
where was the
off-season.
flavor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was off-season. I don't remember. I was wrapped up in the drama. I'm like, I don't know what time of year it is, but
I think
there's
it is
little notes
summer.
that they held up in the windows too.
I like
and I love how
that.
she's like, it's like that Taylor Swift music video. So cute.
Oh my god. Oh, I read it.
There were like,
Oh, sorry.
You
Go
go.
ahead.
you go.
I was just gonna say, I read a little snippet of an article about Emily Henry, and the person was like, "It's as if it's like Taylor wrote a book." And the characters are like people from her songs, and I'm like, I'm excuse me, no, it is not. I disagree wholeheartedly. I know Emily Henry loves Taylor Swift. I don't. That's neither here nor there. However, Taylor Swift did not write this. Okay, there's no way.
I kind of understand what that article is talking about, though. Like, I like a lot of Taylor Swift stuff, and I feel like she has a similar kind of depth to her lyrics.
Okay.
That I could see translating to these characters. Wow, you both hate this idea so much.
I am neutral,
She's
but I'm
laughing at me.
laughing at Kelly because,
Oh, okay.
like,
I feel shook.
are-
I just don't want the Swift fans after me, okay? I'm just trying to
Oh.
avoid a PR nightmare here.
Oh, it's fine. You're our guest. We'll protect you. Okay, I will take the brunt of it.
No, I do like Taylor Swift, though.
No, I
I'm trying to
know.
protect you.
I'm not
It's
going to say
okay.
anything.
That's okay. It's fine. It is definitely the same audience, that's for sure. Because I mean, like, Taylor is the same age ish. You know what I mean? Of us and Emily Henry and these characters. So.
It's definitely like a folklore album. Like it's like Cardigan. It's not like, you know, her early stuff. That's what I would say.
Okay, I don't know enough about this to have an input, but I'll take your word for it because I don't know.
Let's just say folklore came out at a perfect time for me.
Okay. I don't even know which one that is. What's the single from that one?
Cardigan.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what that is. Is that the one? Wait. Okay, I know Cardigan's not the scarf song because that's a different piece of clothing. But which album is that?
The scarf one? I don't know. Oh. Now I'm worried that I'm going to have the name mixed up. There was folklore and then there was Evermore.
I only know her songs through TikTok clips. So is it the album that has the I have this thing? is that song from it?
I think that's her newest one.
I have this thing. Is that the one that's Everyone's a Sexy Baby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that one, but that's
I
not...
don't like that lyric. It weirds me out.
I think maybe what I'm thinking of here is there's actually a song on folklore called August, and I think I'm like really connecting the dots here.
Oh. Okay. I have
us making discoveries. Or like those aliens in Toy Story. Like,
August. Yeah, we're like, oh. Okay, I do want to talk about something in this book, though.
Please, lay it on us, girl.
I don't want to say I enjoyed it because it was sad, but I did like the part, in a way, about January and her ex-boyfriend, whose name I don't remember, who was like...
Jacques or Pierre. He was French.
Jacques. Yeah. I don't know what he did for a living. I don't remember. But...
I think he was a doctor.
Was he a doctor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. God. Okay.
He was like a surgeon.
He was like the French hot doctor. He was like all the tick, tick, tick.
Okay. Well, Mr. All That in a Bag of Chips. He didn't like January anymore because she was going through grief and she was not her perky, romantic self anymore. And I tabbed it, but I don't know where it is in this book. I'm not going to search for it right now. But I loved the part where she was talking about how, like, he didn't want her anymore because she wasn't bright and fun and, like, a distraction from life, like, just life in general, of, like, serious things in life. And her dad named her January after a song, and Gus was like, I don't mind if there's like snow in January or whatever, as long as there's January, I'm fine. And I'm like, you know, like, he's like, I don't care if there's bad things or you're sad or whatever. I just want you, and I want you to be you and to be you with me. And I just loved that so much because I think that's a really important message too to read about, is like, you know, life and romance and relationships are not always bright, fun, sparkly, bubbly things. Like, you can't be on at all times. Like, I don't know, I say on, like, when you have to wear a mask or you need to, like
perform.
Yeah, for your friends or family, whatever. Like, it's different me being at home or me talking to you two versus when I'm at work, and same with you, you know, like, you're not gonna be the same, but you shouldn't have to do that with your partner. And so the fact that she was doing that for years with this guy, and then she has this huge bomb dropped on her on top of her dad passing away, and he's like, I don't want to deal with that. And Gus is like, I have so many problems as well, and I just love you, and I want you to be you, and we'll be us together, and we'll make it through. And I loved it. I loved it so much.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's like that's what real love is. It's not, like you're saying, it's not always like sunshine and rainbows. And I feel like what Pierre, whoever, what Jacques and January had was like what they wanted it to be. Like it wasn't really real because they were just performing for each other all the time.
You could say they were playing house.
Call back to a conversation we had off air that we think is funny and you don't know about.
And you will not be privy to.
It's for us to know and you to find out. Except not. But no, I think that's really true. And it is really powerful. And I think that, again, happens a lot to people who are in university.
Yeah.
Like when you first have your like first blush of love and you're like trying to be someone for someone, and versus when, like, I think January and Gus are like in their 30s now. So
Or
relatable
just
content
about, yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Where it's like those are not the things that matter, and what matters is like who is there with you when something gets really hard.
Exactly. And I just love, like, I love thinking about January pre Gus, and not because of Gus, but I mean like what was happening in her life, who she was hanging around with. So like Jacques or Pierre or whatever the hell his name was, Doctor Dude. She's a romance writer, but how can you write romance if you've never felt real love? And I don't mean like family love, but like a real romantic love, because what they had was just smoke and mirrors, you know? So meeting Gus, even though he's helping her write in this new genre, it's not, I'm sure, yeah, it's a great writing exercise, but she also learns more about herself and real love, which will make her later romance books even more powerful, I'm sure, if we ever get to read one. Emily, wouldn't that be so much fun, reading a January book?
I feel like we are reading January's book.
Yeah.
I guess.
Like I feel like all of Emily Henry's books are January's books.
Hot take, though. Romance books are not about real romance.
That's also true.
Like, you don't have to know anything about romance in your personal life to write a romance book, because people never encounter in a romance book anything real to have emotions about. Like, everything ends when they get together. They don't
I don't know
have
if
like
that's
real
always true, but I do take your point.
for like the general romance book. That's what happens. They like have a petty argument in the middle where they like break up. Could have solved it in 5 minutes. Like on their way to like, and that's when they're like in like situationship territory. And then they come together at the end and they're like, great.
Yeah.
I would say there are romantic things about that, but that is not what like real romance is. Like this book has real romance because you see like real situations that they work through together, not parallel to each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason that I don't like a lot of romance books, is because there is nothing that makes me feel compelled that those people actually would like each other in any other situation. Like everybody, you could be put in a situation with many people where you could find them attractive or talk about a certain thing and really like them and feel like you're going to love them. But if you did real life with those people, you would be like, I hate this person, or even just a more neutral, that's just not for me.
Yeah.
But that's like all romance books are, in a lot, like generally.
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tilly and I will have some recommendations that are like the perfect balance of some real world events or whatever, but still like, you know, happily ever after, fun, silly, you know? But I do agree. Like, I think that's the point though also. It's like, because this isn't a romance, you know? Like, this is fiction. But if we go to the romance section, a lot of it is like, oh, I have to marry the mafia boss's right-hand man.
The, like, Harlequin. Yeah.
Yeah, or like, I'm pregnant with the boss's baby. That's a Harlequin one. At a ski lodge or whatever.
Boss's baby.
Yes!
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
you know, all sorts of stuff. But like, or yeah, just like hot hockey dude with a girl and she's tutoring him. But there's like no, you know, it could be any hot dude. Really. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the romance novels that like resonate the most with me are the ones where they're dealing with like a lot of emotions, and that's what I read them for. Is like, I find it often very comforting to just like read about people talking through their emotions. But I totally agree with you. Like, it's not like real life, and
Yeah.
I don't read a romance novel to read like, I want to know what real life relationship is, so I will read this romance novel, because I have a real life relationship, and it's, you know, it's great, and it's like, it's day by day and like little things and all those lovely things. But you know, when you read a romance novel, it's like, I want to see the idealized, or I want to see the fantasy.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
I guess I was just mostly speaking to like Kelly saying like, you have to like know romance to write romance.
True.
Yeah.
Where I was saying like I don't agree with that because like I know like all the I get what you guys are saying and
Yeah.
I agree. Like I don't read Allie Hazelwood to think realistically about things because there are zero realistic aspects of those books.
Yeah.
But they're really fun.
Yeah.
And like I mean, I read fantasy for the same reason. I'm not
Yeah.
like, oh yes, after this I'm gonna go boil stuff in my cauldron and do a potion. Like,
I wish you would.
I do have a little cauldron over there. I could try later. Let you guys know how it turns out.
I have Newt.
If I see Gandalf shaved unexpectedly, I will have some questions.
He is shaved.
I know, but even more. If there's more
Oh,
off, and
no.
you're like, I'm going to bubble my cauldron, I'm going to have questions.
Just cat hair and water.
Eye of Newt.
I already said that.
Oh, did you? It's a common ingredient. It's common additive.
Are you taking your shirt off? What's happening?
No, I put a blanket up.
Oh,
my
it looked like you're going
goodness.
like,
Yeah, it looked like you were like raising something up. I was like,
Listeners,
I missed something.
this is not that kind of podcast. If it ever becomes that way, I will let you know. But I was keeping my shirt on. I put a blanket up for comfort.
I understand. I'm so sorry. I'm briefly confused, but I'm back with you now.
Well, I'm putting the blanket down now. Oh my god.
What a wild place we've landed in. I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
Okay, I want to know not rapid fire, but top of your head, what was your favorite date that January took Gus on for research purposes or whatever?
Carnival.
Yeah, same.
Oh yeah?
That's the most
Yeah.
memorable one for me.
I
liked
had a
the line
first date at a
dancing.
carnival when I was in
Oh, the line
high
dancing.
school, and so I just
my
thought back to
God.
like that experience, and it was so much fun.
It's so fun.
God. I had
I love
this is why I had a bad carnival date experience, so maybe that's
Oh.
why. Yeah. It was like the carnival was like whatever. It was like a cheapo dinky one like they went to. But
Yeah.
I like went on a ride I didn't want to go on because I knew I would get a migraine. And what happened? I got a migraine, and then I got off. I don't know what it's called, but the one they like whip you around in like a circle that's like on an
No.
angle. Yeah,
You don't go on the
twirly,
rides.
whatever.
You just walk
made
around and eat
me.
popcorn.
He made me go, and I went on it, and I felt sick to my stomach. My head was like so much pressure. I got
No,
off,
thanks.
instant migraine, and then I burped the biggest burp I've ever burped in my life.
Perfect.
He was like, "Do you want to go?"
And he was
again?"
like, that's the girl for me.
"No, we are not together anymore." Thank God for that. But maybe that's why, because it was fun. Like the chapter, I mean, not my experience. That
What,
was
did they go on a
fun.
Ferris wheel in the chapter? I can't remember.
I think they did. Didn't he say like that's the only ride I'll go on
Yeah,
or something?
and they were talking
Okay,
about
'cause that
the
was, like,
lady
really
who was like running it, and they were trying to
Yes.
like, come up with
Oh,
their
I
story.
loved that.
Yeah. That was fun. I did like
It was
that.
kind of giving me like Madame Giry telling the story of the Phantom vibes.
bring out the monkey
Yeah,
jewelry box or whatever it is.
yeah, like
I
the
love-
monkey with the symbols.
Yeah. I loved the line dancing. I was like cackling out loud as I was reading it, just imagining them like drunk and tripping over their feet and almost running into a pole, and like all these serious line dancers like, get out of my way.
Oh my god. I know.
Kind of
so
makes
funny.
me want to go. We should go.
I want to
Line
learn how to
dancing?
line dance. I've been thinking about that for a while. I think it'd be so
really?
fun. Yeah.
I'm so bad at dancing. I can't even subject anyone to it.
But we'd have to be drunk, or like at least not
yeah.
sober, because I can't do it otherwise. I feel like oh god.
I would do it sober, but I'd have more fun if I was drunk.
Exactly. I say
Yeah,
let's
I'm down.
do it. Let's do it. I'm sure there's somewhere around here.
Yeah.
Do you think we could book a hall and like have no one else there, but just the three of us? Because I feel like that would be better for me.
That's why you
We
can't
could
be
just do it in
sober.
my living room.
Okay, now it's entering like maybe like it's a bit sad now. I'm back on the like lots of people.
Nothing's
That's
sad if you drink enough, Tilly.
That's so true. What exactly is line dancing? Is that the boot scoot booty or whatever?
What?
Boot scoot
It's like
boogie.
footloose. It's like footloose. Like you stand, they like call out things to you. No, that's
Do-si-do.
square dancing.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. That's square dancing.
But
There
they
is-
still do. They still call
But
things
they
out.
tell you, like, I think they do beginners. They'll call out, but they'll say, like, this is the dance we're doing. And they'll put a song on, and, like, you just know the dance.
Oh god.
Well, we won't know the dance, but
No.
other people know the dance. And then you do
so
it in a
sorry.
square.
I don't know about either of you, but in my gym class in high school, we had a whole unit on dancing.
Yeah.
We
You
did
did too?
In elementary school, yeah.
I did in high school.
I think I did
you know
grade
what you-
9.
Do you know what's not a fun thing? Is like doing square dances with like sweaty teenagers, like holding their slippery little hands. And then you got a dancer of the week. You could get an award for dancer of the week. Do you know what the prize was? A tiny deodorant. My high
Good job,
school
you stink.
was reading these teenagers for filth. It's
That's freaking
I do remember dancing once
hilarious.
with one guy who I didn't know very well.
You did dance
and
with
then
the
as soon as I
guys?
started, only dancing with guys.
What?
So you're like doing like waltzing and like polka and like square dancing and all this stuff. And I was dancing with this one guy and I didn't really know him and I was kind of like, yeah, sure, like we can be partners. And then I was like, oh my god, he's such a good dancer. And then I like looked at him in this whole new light where I was like, wow.
Did he win the deodorant?
Well, we all wanted deodorant. It wasn't real. It was like a rotation.
So this was really just like your health nurse trying to push deodorant on the kids going through puberty.
No, it was gym class, but they were like tiny deodorants, like kind of like novelty, like mini travel deodorants.
Ah, yes, like salted caramel and peppermint schnapps.
No, there were normal flavors, scents. I didn't eat them
Tilly's like this because she was just licking deodorant in high school.
like this. Like what?
Chaotic tonight.
I am a little chaotic tonight. I'm sorry. I have
love
to pee
it.
so badly.
I think we're all a bit chaotic tonight. I started off this episode like I'm on uppers, which I'm not, by the way. I'm
Earlier
definitely
today-
I'm
not.
also hungry though because I haven't got a Dairy Queen yet. So
oh.
maybe that's where my chaos is coming from.
Earlier I was hyper, like I don't even know. It just was like, who knows? We did
Sometimes.
dancing, but when it was co-ed in elementary school, we just did line dancing, or we did, line dancing. And then in high school in grade 9, we did the jive, but it was an all girls class because it was grade 9. So that was fun. And then we had to do like a group dance. So our group did the Spice Girls, and I wanted to be Sporty Spice, but I had to be Baby because I was blonde. And this girl who was mean was like, I'm going to be Posh because she likes fashion and I like fashion. And I was like, okay, whatever, But we got to dance to Wannabe, which was fun. But when we did our line dancing, we all had to dance to Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under by Shania Twain.
Ooh.
Super fun. Yeah. So that was fun. We didn't do any polka and we didn't have to hold guys' hands because that would have been like, ugh. I had to dance the Texas two-step in high school for Footloose with the director's son. And let me tell you, doing two steps back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for a 10-minute scene was not fun. Okay. With a guy you don't
Yeah.
know who's sweaty.
But what a forbidden romance, like the director's son.
I do remember feeling like, oh, I was put with the director's son because she likes that I listen and do my job. But he was kind of
Because I'm
icky.
a good girl.
He didn't tell me that, but I knew it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways. Do you think January is going to sell her dad's house still? Or, like, is she going to move in with Gus? Or are they going to, like, demolish her dad's house and, like, make a super cottage? Because I would do that if I were her.
Wait, no, I think she did sell her dad's house at the end.
Did she?
Yeah, there was another family living in it and running
Oh,
around, and she
yeah.
and Gus moved in.
Wow. Did I read this book?
But it didn't feel right, so I'm glad you
Twice.
asked, because my immediate reaction was like, no, I don't think she's gonna sell it, even though I just
Yeah.
read this. and
I
she
thought
did.
that she'd keep it and they'd like
Yeah.
use it as like their writing space and then
Yeah.
live in his house or something. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
guess like unless you're like a New York Times bestselling author like 10 times over, can you afford to have 2 homes? Probably not. So
Can't even afford to have one, so you know how it is.
Who knows?
I mean, okay, that answered my question. I totally forgot. I've read this twice, but you wouldn't know it.
Details, you know? It's so
I
hard
just
to
remember
keep track
feelings.
of everything.
Yeah, feelings are what's important.
Yes.
And your feelings are important to us. If you'd like to hear more from us, you can go check us out on our TikTok or Instagram. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And we want to say a huge thank you to Tilly for joining us again. We always love it when it's the original 3 back at it. Next week, or I should say next time, we have a very different special episode for you guys where Kelly and I have gifted each other books and covered up everything you could ever know about them other than the story. So we will be talking about who we think could have possibly authored them, possible title names, what we thought of the actual books, and we'll even let you know what the titles actually are. So stick around for that. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Cheers!